Very, very low here. Maybe I can move my level up a little bit there. By the way, let me see if I hear this. CC, madame, how are you? No, I just don't know that much French. But you being the senior foreign policy advisor, we are going to go to France on this report, and it involves COVID and a whole bunch of other stuff, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. And it actually could be a precursor for things to come in this country. As most people know, that France is the oldest democracy in Europe, and they've recently been accepting all of these immigrants from Muslim countries fleeing the war zones, and slowly but surely they have completely taken control of most of the suburbia around Paris and are no longer listening to the French authorities. They have instituted, in effect, like the no-go zones, and we have those here in this country. And they actually, are, having their own, courts, and they're slowly eroding French society as people that immigrate there normally, like people come to this country. We hope they adapt to our ways, learn our languages, and adapt to our lifestyles, whether it's buying a home or apartment, working, going to church, mosque, wherever you want to go. That's typically what we see when people immigrate. But when these refugees have come, France now is the very first country. Germany's close behind it. That's taken the most of these refugees, and with that there are billions of dollars in taxpayer money in France. I mean, the people that are working are actually paying for this because they do have a Marxist-like socialistic country where the benefits are plentiful. So people that are that come to that country, they're getting free healthcare, free school, minimum wage. So
Can you hang on one second here? Now, you're still talking about France, right?
Yeah.
You're not talking about the United States southern border?
No, exactly. And this is why that's why this dovetails into this. And now you've got 20 generals in the military, and remember, France is not a very large country, so that's a significant number of generals, and then a lot of the other rank and file that have written letters to President Macron, and the military now is pondering the idea of physically removing the president of France for getting the country into such dire straits, and then the country would presumably be run by the military until they could go through free and fair elections again. But this is the people, the majority of the French people who are native born, who have immigrated from other countries lawfully, that didn't come as refugees for the most part. They do not want to see what's going on in France continue, because these people have not come to assimilate. These people have come to take over the region.
Right. Wow. It's sort of like the horse already got out of the barn, folks. And, this should be a wake-up call to America.
Yeah.
But I remember whenever they first flooded it open, oh, isn't this wonderful what we're doing for all these Muslims that want to come in here? And then, what's going on in Israel, for example.
Oh,
Kimberly.
And that's another country that's under civil war as well. Yeah, I read about that story this morning.
Yeah, and what I was going to say is we got 3 huge complaints coming out, and it's from the squad of Congress people that we elected that are Muslims.
Yeah.
That, hate what we're doing.
Yeah.
And they're for the enemy. It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable.
But people just say, yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, here's a quote, and I'm just going to kind of read it verbatim here. It's from the Austrian philosopher Karl Popper, and and this is kind of an interesting, and it's kind of a contradictory thing, but I think it explains what's going on in France, in Israel, and in this country, and other countries across Europe. Unlimited tolerance must lead to the disappearance of tolerance. If we extend unlimited tolerance even to those who are intolerant, if we are not prepared to defend a tolerant society against the onslaught of intolerant, then the tolerant will be destroyed by the tolerance with them. So it's our tolerance and our welcoming, especially now in the southern border, where we're watching TV crews every day at just one location, 900 people crossed 2 days ago. Today, so far, 700 people have crossed into the country, into the United States over the Rio Grande. And those are the people that we get. There's a lot of people that, as you know, we don't apprehend. So then the reporting numbers are significantly more than what is actually being touted by the Biden administration. These people are coming to this country with no skills, they don't speak the language, and they're going to be a burden on the taxpayers. Now, I don't know how long a country can sustain this until the military gets involved. Now, in this country, we have our military elites, the generals, the 4 stars, who are actually globalists themselves and see no problem with this. However, the rank and file military are saying, this can't stand for too long, and if they were ordered by their superiors to fire among American citizens, they would not do that. So this is a fine, delicate dance that's being played right now in real time in France, and America better wake up to see what's going on that border down there, because that border is where we are allowing people to flood into this country. And again, these people they don't speak the language, they have no skills. And, we need highly skilled labor in this country. Most of them don't even have a, 6th grade education, let alone a college education. So we're seeing an open border and a president and a vice president of the United States doing nothing about it. And if we don't stop and do something about it, we will be the next France. Because right now in France, it's a very real possibility that we will see the first toppling of a democratically elected president in that country that we have seen in a century or two. That it just does not happen. And to see that the country has been taken over by primarily Muslims, and they're the ones instituting, we're going to do Sharia law, we'll have our own courts, you guys just keep giving us money, and we're going to live how we're going to live, and we don't care what you do.
Hey, let me tell you something, okay? First off, okay, the French generals, right?
Yeah.
Are, you say, and not so subtle hint.
Oh, they put an ad in the newspaper. They put an ad in the newspaper, so it was a very forward-leaning thing to do, because military tends to stay away from this. And then it was followed by another one a couple weeks later by the rank and file saying virtually the exact same thing.
Well, I'll tell you what, it's interesting because they're doing that, right? Yeah. Okay, our military wouldn't do that right now, because. I got to tell you, I've got a guest coming on actually today, Kimberly, Selwyn Duke. I think you're familiar with him.
Yep.
And his latest article is about how the left plans to put the boots on ground to subdue Middle America. Mm-hmm. And basically it's about taking over the military.
Yeah. Well, this is...
in rank... Yeah, go ahead.
I was going to say, and this, when you look at that and you pair that up with earlier this week, they had a big meeting in Congress, met with them with the leadership of the National Guard. So we're not supposed to have military boots on the ground in this country. That's posse comitatus. It's in the Constitution. You can't do that. You can use them to guard the border. You can't use them to guard the Capitol, White House, or anything like that. But the National Guard is there for that reason. Now, we saw them deployed here in Washington, D.C. for 4 months, 5 months. I mean, I drove by the Capitol building in the White House area. Everything is still on lockdown. There are big fences all around it. Even members of the media, we have no access to the U.S. Capitol. I can't wander the halls.
National Guard troops are still there?
Yeah, there's some of them still there. So that's how they're going to try to go about it. Again, I think within the military, the rank and file, they're looking at the whole situation saying, I signed up to fight for this country. I did not sign up to fight for a specific ideology, because they just, in the majority of rank and file, they're very, very patriotic, very, structure-driven people that will actually, take a look at the situation. They will sum it up and they decide what they're going to do. And then there's also a whole bunch of retired military people that have already been getting together and talking about what can be done, and if things go really, really bad. So that's why the France story is very important. It's playing out in real time. Something like that could happen here. It would happen a little differently because, like I said, the majority of the generals are globalists and they would not do that. But the rank and file certainly would. So it could come down to some sort of secession. It could come down to an insurrection. It could come down a real insurrection, not the fake one they talk about in January, and or a civil war in this country. People are not going to look at what's going on. I mean, we have lines to get gas back here in Washington, D.C. Gas has gone up $1.50 in the first 100 days of Biden's administration. People can't afford that. And the people that get hurt are the middle class and the people who are poor. They can't afford this stuff. And you start seeing long gas lines, you start thinking Jimmy Carter.
And remember Trump, right?
Yeah.
For the very first time in the history that we became, what was it, independent?
Energy independent.
Independently.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
And the White House has not said, okay, we're going to tap into our reserves to ease the situation. Now, I know this happened under the Trump administration when the Saudi Arabians decided they were going to raise the prices. Then what happened is the Trump administration came in and alleviated that by using the reserves. And then as everything in this country got up and running and we're energy independent, they no longer needed that. This is a situation that could be solved. But the Biden administration doesn't want to do it. And if they want to think that people are going to love hanging out in lines to get gas so they can't get to work if they don't get in there, I mean, it's very, very disturbing to see that the president is so disconnected. And today he's having a meeting with the top 4 leaders in both parties, and they're sitting and talking about transportation and infrastructure. No questions about what about the crisis that's going on at the southern border and the crisis within our energy sector right now, and the fact that they're directly responsible for what's going on with this energy crisis. They alone, the Democrats.
And I couldn't believe earlier today, before I came down to the studio and everything, I'm watching a TV report, and the big thing now is that they want to be able to change whatever it was that the President Biden said in a quote. If he said something, they want to say, we have the authority and we want to let you know that we can change the quote if it didn't really get across the point that we're trying to make.
Yeah.
Because he's saying the wrong things. If they said something like that about Trump or any other president, really.
Oh God. Yeah.
Kennedy, they would have said, no, you can't do that.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing. It's fake media, because if the media is allowing them, and not only are they allowing them to change a quote, remember that they're actually sending questions over to be answered. So these people are not even interviewing them on the fly to catch them off guard. So we have no idea. This is state propaganda media. They laugh and they joke about Pravda and RT, Russia TV, being a state propaganda. You know what? This country is that right now. The major networks, the majority of the cable networks, NPR, throw them all in there. They are all just propagating what the government wants them to propagate. I'm on the email list. I get the stories. They're practically written for you, and all you got to do is sign your name under it and maybe change a couple words around, and bam, you've got a story that you don't have to work on. That happens. It comes from the Pentagon, comes from the State Department, comes from the White House.
Wow.
Yeah.
Kimberly, what is it? You press 1, is it for English?
Yeah.
Press 1 for English? Yeah. And I look at your story here, all right, and demanding their own laws, their own schools, their own language, customs and religion, okay. We didn't really have too much of a problem, but then you think, see, there's a tip of the iceberg whenever, demanding their own language. So you press 1 for English, that's a pretty good start.
Mm-hmm.
Customs and religion. Customs, I don't know, we're still celebrating, Cinco de Mayo, that's okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I just let it out who I was talking about. But thank God it's not as bad as France,
Well, in
where
France,
they want their own.
Well,
yeah, go ahead.
I think you were heading to religion on this point. And on this point in France, Their churches are being burnt down. Their churches are coming down, and they're being replaced with mosques. So people need to wake up to the fact, and I think that's what most people are looking at, who are saying, oh, we just opened our arms. There was a crisis in the Middle East. We wanted to open our arms to these people. We gave them everything so they would like us, and they want to be like us, and they'd integrate and assimilate and all these wonderful things. And they came for one reason: to take over the suburbs, surround Paris, which has now been done, put a whole bunch of no-go zones, basically, and if anybody goes in there that's not wearing, the hijab and whatnot, they're fair game. And if you're a female, there's a lot of rapes going on.
We're going to be right back. More from Kimberly Dvorak. Even London's having a problem.
Yeah.
It kind of ties in with the same thing going on, but anyway, more from the one and only. I don't know, do you think whenever it was first opened up to all these Muslim migrants, that there was really, we're very concerned about them and what's happening to them, and come on in and we'll take care of you, and and we'll all get along, and can't we all get along? And it is happening pretty well here in the United States when we bring in a lot of different people and cultures and things like that, and we do seem to get along. But then again, we're a pretty big area too.
Yeah, you got to remember the landmass in France is a lot smaller. I mean, it's smaller than the size of Texas, so it's not a directly huge thing. But I just want to say there were kind of like three things here to kind of finish out, to see where this is all going. Now, the first thing is that this country, after George Floyd and the Summer of Riots, the Summer of Love, Americans and the Democrats, they went out there and they decided that we're going to be woke. And being woke and wokeness, and how do you describe wokeness? Well, it's actually like kind of a psychosis of mass hallucination, because they're trying to make people think things that aren't actually real. And that opened the door to the Black Lives Matter people, who are Marxists and communists, and that's not what this country was built on. And then you have to filter it down. When we do, as you say, we have big open arms here for people that come to this country lawfully and want to assimilate. The majority of them that come lawfully do want to be here. And it's that human capital that makes our country. They're human capital. They're going to help our country. And people that continue to flow across, and the refugees, and now Biden signed on, we're going to have 4 times more refugees coming into this country. Well, you and I talk about this all the time. And there are no-go zones, by the way, in the United States. There are a lot of them, primarily one in San Diego and one in Michigan with the Somalis, because that's in Michigan, largest population of Somalis, second largest in San Diego, and those are no-go zones. Police don't go in there. They don't go in there. So Americans that
and also like what you would think is a minor thing, whatever it is, they blow the horn or the trumpet or something on loudspeakers.
Oh yeah.
When it's time together.
Yeah.
But if you shoot off 3 fireworks, then they'll come and arrest you. You know what I'm saying? Too much noise there.
Yeah. Well,
that's part of you.
Yeah. No, I just want to say.
You cannot.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yep.
I was going to say, you cannot make exceptions for one particular class of people and not for the other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't show that much favorites. But then that brings in the woke system again.
There you go, exactly. And that could be the decline in our country and what's going on at the border and the illegals that are criminals and possibly terrorists crossing the border that they don't catch, that can come back to harm us. So, it could be that history looks back on this time, and if there was some sort of, civil uprising, they're going to look back at the time and say, okay, well, it's because the border was wide open, they let anybody who wanted to come in here, and they promised them free money, free healthcare, free school. Well, Americans had to work and pay for all that stuff, and then people start getting a little edgy with one another, and that's what creates this divisiveness.
Kimberly, we've run out of time. I'm going to tell you, when they start giving out free lottery tickets, yes, we're going to put our feet down right there.
Right there.
Hey, we'll do it again next week. Thank you very much, Kimberly Dvorak.